Izzy, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good, good, good. Great to have you in this conversation around Secrets of Talent, but also talking about degree apprenticeships. And I wanted to kind of start with learning more about UA92, so why
hmm
it's different, because I know it's quite disruptive, and also how degree apprenticeships play a significant role within the university.
Yeah, so University Academy 92 was co-founded by Lancaster University and the class of 92. Are you into football?
Semi.
Okay, well, the ex-Manchester United players who came to their rise in their career under Sir Alex Ferguson's leadership. So it's Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Ryan Giggs, Nicky Butt, and Paul Scholes. It's twofold, really, their venture into higher education. It's one, they recognise that the learnings and the lessons that they had from Sir Alex during their football career wasn't necessarily represented in education, but things around resilience, goal setting, financial literacy, becoming a global citizen were all really valuable lessons that they learned under Sir Alex that they felt weren't represented in higher education. So that was their first vision, if you will, for University Academy 92. And then secondly, this is their nod to how much they love their city. They're giving back passion projects, if you will, to Manchester, because they're all Manchester born and bred, and they love the city and they love what they're doing in terms of creating opportunities for young people and for organisations across the Northwest. And then the other side of that is Lancaster University, who for me give us a really credible partner in terms of academic rigour and helping us drive real change in education for young people who might not necessarily be able to pursue higher education typically. So that's sort of the ethos and the philosophy. It's a really inclusive place. You look around the campus and you look at the students and the staff, and you feel as though you're sort of represented across the whole demographic within the university. So it's a really nice place to work. I really enjoy it. And I suppose apprenticeships come into that because it's our natural progression in terms of diversifying our portfolio of things that we deliver. So we have our undergraduate block at the moment, and then we also have our apprenticeships, and then we also have boot camps as well, 6-week boot camps that are free to join for people that are looking to upskill or upshift their opportunities in tech.
And degree apprenticeships, has that been an empowering journey for students when you introduce them?
So we have our first cohort of apprenticeships are just live. We just recently got onto the
Oh, wow.
apprenticeship register, so this is a really new journey for us. But we've been really fortunate because we partnered with JD Sports. I don't know if you know JD, and Pixel Kicks,
I
which is
think so.
a designer locally where you spend all your money on your trainers. But both organisations have taken on our apprentices, sorry, and they'll come and do their learning with us in and around their work. So it's a new venture, but it's here to stay in terms of our actual model and what we look to do in terms of growth. So at the moment, it's just a level 4 DevOps apprenticeship, but that will grow and evolve over time.
And the ambition is to move into degree apprenticeships, right?
Yes, definitely.
Cool, cool, cool. So about yourself now, you are in student recruitment, you are in a directorship role around student recruitment, but how did you get into that directorship role within UA92?
Do you want the full story or the fast one? I'll give you the fast one. So I went to university at Northumbria and I studied business with human resources, and I left there and I went to work for one of the corporate accounts I'd met on my placement year. I did a placement year at Enterprise Rent a Car, and then I had sort of sales and recruitment roles for a number of years, five or 6 years. And then lockdown happened, and there was a lot of change in society and a lot of change around issues regarding race because of the George Floyd murder and other things as such. So I decided that I wanted to do something whereby I could use my commercial ability to something that makes a difference to the world and also the city that I'm really proud to be a part of, which is Manchester. So this role came up, and I think most people probably wouldn't have applied for it because it's a higher education institution and I had no higher education experience. But I'm always encouraging people around me to go for things, even if they don't feel like they've got the full skill set or the full experience. And I wouldn't have been true to myself if I hadn't gone for it when I saw this role come up. So I've been following University Academy 92 for a while. I'd always liked what they sort of were about and what they were putting out there, and I'd had it on my list. And one day the alert came up, and at the time it was head of student recruitment and admissions, and I just thought, oh, I'm just going to apply for that. And I gave the application everything. I remember giving it everything, and then I got the job. And now I'm here. I've been here for 2 years. In the summer, I was promoted to Director of Student Recruitment and International, which means I'm now responsible for our domestic strategy, our international strategy, working with international partners, and also our apprenticeship, bootcamp, and community strategy too for recruitment. So it's really good. I love it.
So you'll probably see more than anybody the impact it has on not just on the individuals but on the employers, on the university academy itself as well, because it's a wide encompassing role.
100%. And we had our first graduates this summer, which was amazing. But I'm really lucky that I am quite heavily involved with our industry partners as well, for whatever reason. Different projects have different partners. So the likes of Microsoft, KPMG, Gately, so many big companies in Manchester and nationally. And we see our graduates go and work for them, and we know that it's our full circle moments are happening all the time, if that makes sense. So it's not just an industry-led approach, it's an industry-led outcome. And it's really exciting to, like, some of the students that I used to work with as student ambassadors have gone on to like Manchester United, Lancashire Cricket Club, and they're all like absolutely smashing it. It's really nice to see.
And it's a good thing that you haven't forgotten to mention Manchester, that you're from Manchester, because everything, it seems like that it's a strong stronghold of it being within a passion of the academy itself. So you spoke about sort of a diversity related reason why you got into your role. What's the role of degree apprenticeship in terms of addressing underrepresentation and social mobility? Because I think if it's had somewhat of an impact in your role itself, it'll certainly have a role within other people as well.
Yeah, so for me, an apprenticeship is a vehicle for creating real change, because you're learning whilst you earn. So often the perception of higher education is that it's costly and that it's really hard to do, and that there's many hidden barriers and hidden costs, and therefore that becomes a deterrent for a lot of young people who might just go straight into work as a result, whereas this provides an option which blends the best of both worlds in terms of education and employment, something that a lot of people need. A lot of people don't have the opportunity or the privilege to be able to go and study full-time on a 3-year degree. So for us, it's a real vehicle for change with a guaranteed salary whilst you're studying, and also a really positive outcome because you're building relationships with employers really early on. So it's a really big vehicle, and it is really going to be a big part of our strategy in terms of building out our community recruitment and what we're known for across Manchester and nationally.
Do you think the brand plays a sort of a role within that as well? It being linked to the likes of Gary Neville and his brother and the wider.
I think so. Do you know what we have? So if you think of the brand as in two parts, the Lancaster University degree and the Mancunian footballer co-founder, we have people that are die-hard United fans, or just who recognise the value that Gary Neville as a businessman is bringing to the city. So, they're very loyal to that, and there's a bit of, I suppose, fandom to an extent. But then we have people who think, oh my God, I would love a Lancaster degree, but I really want to study in Manchester, or I'd love a Lancaster degree, but I don't quite want to move to Lancaster. So it's twofold, the brand for me. It's a combination of all different parts, and it's definitely an attractive proposition. I think it's quite refreshing. You probably speak with quite a lot of education providers. We're quite different intentionally. We call ourselves disruptors, which is, I don't know how that's seen in the industry, but we want to provide and produce talent to organisations in the Northwest. But we want that talent to be well-rounded and reflective of what organisations need, rather than just sticking to sort of old-style traditional curriculums that are like maybe a little bit out of date.
Bums on seats approach, and I think the fundamental part too, when you mentioned Lancaster and bringing Lancaster into Manchester, is you're giving access. You're giving access to those who may not have had access previously. So I'm gonna give Izzy, I'm gonna give you 3 superpowers, and if you had 3 superpowers to make 3 reforms to apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships, and I promise I'll make this my last question. What 3 things would you do?
I would change the funding model. I think it needs simplifying. So having worked for organisations before who didn't draw down on the apprenticeship levy because they just didn't know how, and therefore they paid it off as like a tax rather than a value add, I think if we simplified the funding model, then more employers would adopt apprenticeships and the levy, and therefore there'd be more opportunities for people everywhere. I think that would be like a really good thing to do. Even I struggle to understand a lot of it, and this is the world that I'm operating in now. I would try and explain, which I think is something that you do, the credibility of an apprenticeship in terms of the awarding bodies and the affiliate sort of partners who actually accredit the apprenticeship itself. I think there's a perception that an apprenticeship doesn't carry the same weight or academic rigor as a degree, but it does. And we work with like City and Guilds, BCS, loads of different apprenticeship sort of facilitators who do have that academic rigor. So I think that's a misconception that needs unpicking, and that will happen over time. And my third superpower would be, I think, just wider adoption of apprenticeships by learners, especially learners who are maybe already like having had a career and actually want to try something a little bit different, or maybe they've decided that the thing that they've gone to do straight out of school or college isn't quite for them. A recognition that an apprenticeship is a viable and valuable route, and quite an efficient one, in my opinion. Those would be my three things. I think there's just an old archaic misconception around apprenticeships that's not necessarily reflective of the breadth of apprenticeships that there are today. I think sometimes when people hear apprenticeships, particularly parents, the perception is around trade and joinery apprenticeships, which are still amazing opportunities, but there's so many more than just those trade style apprenticeships now.
No, it's a very nice way to kind of end this conversation. Izzy, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.